It was supposed to be the Game of Thrones of the Netflix, the next big show, and Witcher fans were all excited to see their favorite franchise on TV. Yet they got potato with the Witcher sticker on it. The show that was supposed to be the next best thing after Witcher games became the worst thing ever happened to Witcher World. It is the nightmare that haunts Witcher fans in sleep. But what went wrong? Why Witcher series that had an easy job of following the source material failed so spectacularly? One of the reasons is jumping from one point to another, and you think, well, they're doing this to achieve something. If they were trying to confuse the audience, they definitely achieved it. To give you a clear image of how they messed the time up, I'll show you their master plan. So, the show starts with Geralt fighting a Kikimora, which happens in Lesser Evil short story. Then it shows Ciri playing with group of boys. The time difference between these scenes is about 10 to 50 years. It keeps jumping between these two, giving the viewer the sense that they are happening simultaneously, which is misleading. Episode 2 starts with Yennefer's childhood, which is creation of the showrunners, as it is at best hinted few times in the books. And guess what? It's around 80 years before Lesser Evil story. Then it jumps to a scene where Ciri is running from Nilfgaardians, which is 90 years later. Then it goes back to the Age of the World story, which is around 50 years before Ciri's scene. Look, I'd stop here. Better not to steer this mess. Just look at the picture and see for yourself. Two things we Witcher fans wanted in casting. First, someone who looks as close as possible to the character's looks described in the books. And second, the ability to present that character's emotions, style, moves. To be clear, we Witcher fans are not attacking the actors or actresses themselves, but the ideology behind casting, and because of that, we've been called many names. But it's not the case at all. We just wanted to see a cast true to the law, so it can be a true representation of the law. But no, showrunners know better, and they're gonna shove their ideology down our throats. What is the result of that? Well, for one, we can't sympathize with the characters. They are not believable, as they are complete opposite, both in looks and behavior. And it makes us hate the showrunners for ruining what could have been an amazing experience for us. I mean, seriously, how did this become this? And looks actually matter for an immersive experience in the world of Witcher, especially in the case of sorceresses, as their beauty was their signature. They were inhumanly beautiful because they fixed every physical flaw in themselves. Or the elves, for example. For one, they didn't have modern haircuts. They are different race from humans and differ in many aspects. Yet, showrunners decided to make them look like backstreet thugs. All these made Witcher fans mad. But what does Netflix do? Of course, the reasonable thing to do. Anyone in their right mind would blame fans and call them toxic because they have an opinion. Now, this is the part I honestly don't know where to start. Witcher has a well-established lore with 8 books and more than 3,000 pages. It has its unique world and characters and a huge fan base. Then there are games. Their story happens after books ending, yet it stays true to the lore. That's amazing, but how it can happen, you ask? Simply by understanding the world, the characters, and staying true to them. They get the essence of characters, put them in the same settings as the books, and tell a different story with them. And everyone loves it. And it sells over 75 million copies. Now, that's a success. The games had few differences with the books, true, but Witcher fans are not fanatics. As long as the adaptation is true to source material, a few changes here and there don't matter. Now, Netflix had much easier job than CDPR, because they were not going to invent a story about what happened after the ending. They simply were to make a show about the books and had all the materials needed to do it, and a large guaranteed audience because Witcher Books has a massive fan base. Yet they messed it up because they haven't even read the books or are not smart enough to understand it. The only thing they got from the books is the name Witcher, and I'm not exaggerating. I tell you why. In episode 1, we see Geralt enter a tavern in Blaviken and see Renfri there, have a short exchange. Then a girl takes him to Stregobor. Through exchanges with both characters, we see rushed dialogues about lesser evil and destiny. These concepts are talked in different occasions in the books. They are detailed and affect characters and their growth. Yet in the show, they are rushed. Just a few lines that are at best a petty attempt to adapt the concepts. They don't build up, they don't make us think, and as a result we don't get to care, neither for the concept nor for the character. Everything is so hectic, and just mentioning a concept like lesser evil doesn't mean you are adapting the lore. They have shortened the dialogue so much that almost nothing is left, whereas detailed dialogue in the books makes us understand and sympathize with the characters and care for them. In episode 2, they show Yennefer's childhood, which I'm not gonna touch at all. The thing that really bothers me is the change they made in Ciri's journey to Brokilon Forest. First, Ciri went there before Massacre of Cintra, not after. Second, she was there with Geralt. In the books, Ciri and Geralt's adventures in Brokilon made a strong bond between them. It was the start of their father-daughter relationship. It served the plot. It made us see and feel their relationship grow and make sense. But what Netflix does, they replace Geralt with this so-called elf who appears out of nowhere and amounts to nothing. The only thing this swap does is eliminating the background Ciri could have with Geralt, the bond which could be believable. But where is Geralt? 10 years back in time, in the edge of the world. It's like showrunners are actively trying to sabotage themselves. Now let's talk about Aretuza and how Netflix managed to mess it up. Their explanation of magic is pitiful at best. The way they show Aretuza like this dark dungeon of torture couldn't be further from the truth. And the way Tissaia teaches, in one scene she gives them a bottle and tells them to trap the lightning bolt in it with no instructions. And finally, those who aren't good enough are turned into eels. Seriously? Eels? That's your genius idea, Lauren? On contrary to Netflix's hogwash, Aretuza was the best school available to girls. They got the best education, not only in magic but other fields of study. And no, none of them got turned into eels or fish or whatnot. And to get the best explanation about magic, look for the part Yennefer is educating Ciri and explaining the ways of magic. In the third episode, we see Geralt sleeping with a prostitute. But because he doesn't have enough money to pay for the room, he leaves his beloved horse there and then looks for a job to get some money to pay what he owes and get his horse back. That's so not Geralt. We know how much Geralt loves his horse and would never leave her like that. That was an irresponsible move and so out of character for Geralt. Then later the show tries to tell the first story of the Witcher books, called The Witcher, and guess who is in Vizima? Yes, Triss Merigold, and Geralt doesn't know her. Then we get to see Foltest as this chubby man who does nothing but swallow big chunks of food down his throat. I remember asking myself, why do showrunners hate Foltest this much? Then I remembered they hated other characters more. And then I remembered they hated the world of Witcher even more. They just hate, that's what they do. Time for episode 4. Geralt going to Sintra is one of the defining moments of the whole books. He goes there by an invitation from Queen Clancy, and under cover, as the Queen knew the urchin would come to claim her daughter's hand by the law of surprise, and needed Geralt to get rid of the problem. Also, Dandelion was not there, yet in the show, the whole reason that Geralt's there is because of Dandelion. The feast and guests were explained in detail, and Queen Clancy's and Geralt's hushed conversation was one of my favorite moments in the whole series. And Netflix, again, rushed it and gave us a shallow shell of what originally was there. Yet it's nothing compared to what they did to Brooklyn and Lady Athene. They do not explain what is the philosophy of Brooklyn, what do they stand for, what are they fighting for, what is the political situation there. No, they don't give us any meaningful representation. Instead, they do what they always do. Just throw some names without any background or plot. Lady Athene and Brooklyn is represented so poorly that their only purpose in the show is that so Ciri can have a safe place for a while. In the next episode, our poor eyes have to see a creepy Doppler who is into collecting human body parts and putting them into a jar. Yet another lie from Netflix, as Dopplers in Witcher World are good in nature. True, they sometimes do illegal things, but nothing so evil. And why is he there? So he can assume Mosesac's form and go to Brooklyn and get Ciri. Him, a man, in Brooklyn. Then we get to see Geralt, and now Lauren is trying to ruin the Last Wish story for us. Let me ask you a question, and it's a serious one. What do you do when you can't sleep? These are the options. Now, what does Netflix Geralt do when he can't sleep? He looks for a djinn. And that's the normal thing to do. I mean, seriously, Netflix, why would you change the story where Geralt and Dandelion are fishing and they suddenly stumble upon a container with a seal that has a djinn in it to Geralt looking for a djinn because he can't sleep? And how does Geralt know where to look for the djinn? And what does he want to do with it? I mean, it can be further from the lore. We know Geralt would advise against any attempt to get a djinn because the stakes are simply so high. Then we get to Netflix Yennefer. I'm gonna call her that from now on, as she has nothing in common with books or lore Yennefer, yet I have things about Netflix's own creation. The Netflix Yennefer is a spoiled girl in the body of an adult. She now suddenly hates Aretuza, the place that gave her everything she has now. Fame, beauty, magical abilities, and a life. But no, Netflix Yennefer hates it all because she herself decided to go under all those physical changes when they didn't want her to. She herself did it without being forced, knowing very well she wouldn't be able to have kids after that. And she was on such a rush that she did it without necessary drugs to make her unconscious. Well, if that happened, it wouldn't make such a show of going through pain and transformation. I mean, Netflix just did it so they can show Yennefer suffer. And now, she doesn't take responsibility for her action and only blames Aretuza. So no wonder when she and Geralt meet, there is no meaningful dialogue and a relationship established. It's all shallow, rushed. I could go on about it, pointing every time they deviate from the lore, but believe me, it would be longer than Netflix series itself. In episode 6, Netflix is trying to show the Bond of Reason short story, and you guessed it, they messed it up again. But how? First, every party hunting the dragon is explained in details in the books. We get to see what kind of people they are, and what is their motivation. Like Sir Dyke, who is a knight, he is there just to kill evil, as he sees dragons and all other monsters as evil, unlike how he is portrayed in the show and the stupid way he dies. He amazes everyone by the way he fights the dragon, or Boholt and his men who were there for money, etc., etc. It's a journey in which most the parties have the same goal, to kill the dragon. Some actually want to save it, but they all want something different from it. And the conflict of interest makes up for an interesting and amazing story, unlike Netflix's boring and shallow excuse of the show. Then we get to Creepy Doppler again, where we are blessed to see the masterpiece, the genius writing of the showrunners and screenwriters of Netflix. The writing so good that it leaves Andrew and CDPR team in the dust. Buckle up and get ready. I will take you through a journey written by none other than Netflix writing team. It all starts with evil Fringilla finding Queen Clance's corpse, and then one of her wizards eats piece of Queen's meat to locate Ciri. He locates her, but because of eating a dead person's meat, gets a stomachache. Evil Fringilla has no patience for sick people and kills him. Then Cahir finds an evil Doppler who kills people and collects parts of their body. He wants this Doppler to assume Mosesac's form and go to Brooklyn to get Ciri. He does that, finds Ciri, they walk a bit. In the way, Ciri and her modern elf friend start asking questions. But as our evil Doppler has the IQ of retarded buffoon who has hit his head 10 times to the wall, can't make up a simple story that makes sense. And they fight. He overcomes Ciri. Now he has one job, to take Ciri to Cahir and end the show. But no, he ties Ciri to a tree, then assumes her form and leaves Ciri there. Because of his genius, he goes to Cahir in form of Ciri, then he takes Cahir's form and fights him. Then he runs into a crowd and disappears. Then Cahir kills all the people there. I mean, wow. My brain can't even handle the genius of Netflix Witcher series writers, the masters of circling around themselves. There is nothing much in episode 7, we just get to see conclave of sorceresses that looks like Friday's Market. Then sorcerers hate Netflix Yennefer for some reason, and Fringilla bursts in like it's Walk in the Park, an evil Fringilla who has broken many rules and by conclave laws should be prisoned, but no, she walks in, gives a touching speech and leaves like nothing had happened. Conclave is busy hating Netflix Yennefer, then evil Fringilla, who actually breaks the law, kills people, uses forbidden magic, and helps Nilfgaard invade the north. Sadly, we have reached the final episode of Season 1. This time, it's trying to ruin the Battle of Sodden Hill. And this is how they achieve it. There are no armies. Northern soldiers are not there at all, and if you count Nilfgaardians, they wouldn't reach 1000. Second is the way magicians are depicted. Witcher fans know how strong Vilgefortz is, yet when he fights Cahir, the only magic he can do is conjuring sabers, only to lose them afterwards like an idiot. This is Vilgefortz we're talking about, the guy who almost killed Geralt, and Geralt only lives because he didn't have time to finish his job. The guy who easily bested Yennefer, the guy who melted a vampire. But no, when he fights the strongest of all, Cahir, he gets thrown down a hill like an idiot and then kills a fellow wizard for some reason. And then there is Netflix Yennefer, who single-handedly uses fire magic to burn all the Nilfgaardians. None of it is true to the lore. Yennefer actually was blinded in the battle. And the victory against Nilfgaard was the result of Northern army and magicians working together. Then there is Geralt and Ciri's meeting. None of them has seen the other before. There is no background, no bond made. Yet when they see each other, Ciri runs towards Geralt and hugs him just because a couple of people had told her that he is her destiny. It is completely, utterly stupid. They lose the chance to create a bond between Ciri and Geralt by manipulating time and replacing Geralt with a nobody modern elf. So now you see why I told you this Netflix series has nothing to do with the actual lore of Witcher, and they only borrowed the name. They try to put some elements of the lore in the show, but they just rush it and it's just the name. There is no background for it, no building up for it. It's all just a pitiful attempt, an excuse to say that yes, we presented some of the lores in the series. But no, none of it makes sense. Not only they deviate from the lore, but their own creation, the material that they built themselves, is just sabotaging themselves and running around circles without achieving anything. I think this is the place where I should stop for my own mental health. I'd create another video comparing real Witcher characters with fake Netflix characters. So like this video and subscribe and say why you hate the show in the comment section. Take care, till next video.